Okay, so if you have seen my previous tutorial on how to build a cardboard Inkle Loom and followed along with us for that picture tutorial, and then hit up the second tutorial for how to make your own heddles, you've probably got about 30 of these made. For this first project where we're learning to weave, you're going to need 20 of them on your heddle bar like was shown in that second tutorial. So this is what's called a pattern draft, and I've just drawn it out in brick layout on graph paper. You have two rows that are staggered. The first row, which has the stagger like the farthest out, has an O beside it. O stands for open thread. The second row down here has an H beside it, and that stands for heddled threads. And you read the pattern from left to right, and you start with the one that's sticking out the furthest, the open thread. I typically start on an open thread when I'm drafting my patterns. So what we're going to do now, if it's an open thread, I have these little drawings here. This is like a side perspective. Turn it the right way. This is like a side perspective, as if this part of the box was invisible, and it shows you the path of the thread when it's open, and then the path of the thread when it's a heddle thread. And you can see there, this is the center bar and the heddle, so it goes through the heddle and then up over this top bar. And that's what happens with the heddled threads. So we're just going to go right ahead and start. Our first thread on this pattern draft is royal blue. In my case, you can substitute whatever colors you want. Royal blue, and it's in the open row, so it's an open thread. So we're going to take the royal blue thread and we're going to follow it the same path that this diagram shows. And I take my running end. This loom has closed sides, so you have to work with your. You take. Oh, I've got a knot. I'm just going to cut that out. If you have a knot in your yarn, it's best to cut it off and start fresh with no knots. Knots create a weakness in the warp. So it's an open thread. So the open thread goes up in between these two bars here, and then up over this back bar. Okay, and this takes a little bit of getting used to working inside your loom. Down underneath this bottom bar and back around to the front. And it's a bit finicky getting in underneath this. I've left a decent amount of space here. And then what I'm going to do is, just for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to cut every thread that we use. You can do more than one at a time, but for this one we're just going to do one thread at a time. And I'm wrapping this, that's one wrap, 2 wraps, and I might actually even do 3 wraps. And I'm going to tighten that up. You're going to use this 3 wraps to create friction at the bar and hold your tension. You don't want it to be super tight, but you don't want it to be terribly floppy either. Just ping, ping. And once you've got the right tension that you like, seal that knot off with a second hitch. And you're on to your next thread on your pattern. Your next thread is also, we now go down to the heddled row, because you're alternating always one open, one heddle, one open, one heddle. So your next thread, you've got one royal blue that's threaded that's open. Your next thread is also going to be royal blue, but it's going to be a heddled thread. So it's going to follow this path. So I'm going to take my royal blue, and I'm going to move my first heddle out. Try not to lose this bar. It's very easy in the first couple rows because there's no tension to hold the bars in place, so they're a little bit loose. I'm going to go up over this top bar. Always remember, if you've gone through a heddle, you have to anchor it over this top bar. Then you're going to follow the exact same path over the back bar, down behind the bottom one, and out towards the front. And like I said, for this purpose, we're going to cut every thread. and tie it off individually. This will allow you to work on your tension again with 3 wraps on this hitch, and I'm going to just tighten that up against the bar to a point where the tension is relatively close, and seal it off with one more half hitch. Okay, so you're just going to keep following the pattern in this way. Our next thread is going to be white. See, we're going to go back up to the open because we're alternating always like this. Our next thread, it says it's going to be white and it's going to be open. So once again, we're going to follow this path with the white thread. Continue on like this, 1 open, 1 heddle, 1 open, 1 heddle, 1 open, 1 heddle, all the way across until you've finished your threading, and you end on this pattern with an open thread. A good way to keep track is just by if you take a pencil and just cross out the ones that you've already threaded as you thread them, and if you always remember 1 open, 1 heddle, 1 open, 1 heddle, 1 open, 1 heddle, 1 open. You should be able to translate this pattern fairly quickly onto the loom. And so we will see you for the weaving tutorial once you're all finished. Thank you.